Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Well, good evening. Just before the Memorial Day weekend, this is Paula Begoun, the Cosmetics Cop, keeping you beautifully informed every Thursday evening here in Seattle, Washington at 6 o'clock, and on the East Coast at 9 o'clock of the United States, but all over the world at some point in time. And, of course, you can always listen to the show archived. We're all having a little bit of pre-holiday malaise here. Desiree's eyes. Desiree, are you there? Part of my Cosmetics Cop team. Her eyes were a little glazed over. I could tell she was thinking about the weekend. Didn't want to do talk radio. Are you a little more awake right now?
I'm alert. I'm happy to be here. This is fun.
And Brian Barron, the other part of my Cosmetics Cop team. How you doing, Brian?
Brian is on vacation.
This is a recording.
Yeah.
So no, we are
here. I wouldn't miss the Thursday night show.
Oh, see. Well, I definitely wouldn't. Well, actually, I have missed. We've all missed just a little bit, but mostly it does take a village, and this is the Cosmetics Cop team village. Desiree Stordahl, Brian Barron, and myself. And again, keeping you beautifully informed and separate from, the pre-holiday little malaise thing we got going. The topic tonight, the hair-raising truth about hair loss and hair growth, really kind of triggered a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. I have my books, Don't Go to the Cosmetics Counter Without Me, and the Beauty Bible, the original Beauty Bible, right now in its third edition. But way back in the day, I can't remember when the last edition of Don't Go Shopping for Hair Care Products Without Me was published. Brian, when did we do that last edition?
The last edition of the hair care book was published in 2004, but the research on it concluded in late 2003.
Yeah. So, we pay so much attention, the Cosmetics Cop team. I mean, we still do some hair care research, but our main focus is skincare and makeup. It's not that hair care isn't interesting. I mean, hair care is interesting. But formulary-wise, in the millennium, the state-of-the-art of hair care products is just astounding. There isn't a reason to spend more than $10 on any hair care product. You're spending more money. You're spending $10 on a hair care shampoo, conditioner, styling product. It's just a sucker bet because the quality of products is, it's almost hard to find. You got to really look to find a bad hair care product. But the subject of hair growth and hair regrowth, that is fascinating for so many people, painful. And, I hadn't thought about it in a long time, despite the fact that I suffer through some amount of, I don't know, suffering's the right word, but I deal with having some amount of hair loss, as do over 50% of women under the age of 60, and 65 to 70% of women over the age of 65 go through something called female pattern baldness. Used to be called male pattern baldness, and they've changed the name to female pattern baldness. But it's the same condition. It's caused by the same problem with what's going on inside the hair follicle. It's just fascinating, and that's what the topic is today. Of course, when we go to the caller, your questions, you can ask me anything you want, but this issue of hair growth and hair loss and hair regrowth, particularly because the products out there promising they will help your hair grow, overwhelmingly are just a ripoff. They are absolutely taking your money and washing your hair down the drain. They're not building your hair. It's shocking. It's disappointing, especially given how personal and intimate and out there in the open is hair loss on the scalp. It's just a very big deal for so many people. So I'm going to jump in today and start with the hair loss, hair regrowth issue because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of issues around it, a lot of facts you need to have so you stop wasting your money when it comes to buying products making claims that absolutely don't have a chance of helping you. Okay. So let's start at the beginning, because this is such a big issue. So what makes it confusing, hair loss, is that we lose hair every day. It's actually normal for the average person to lose about 100 hairs from your head a day. That's pretty normal. I mean, different hair colors, blonde, red, or brunette, or dark, black hair. It's pretty much in that realm, give or take a few hairs, either one way or the other. And men and women lose it equally. The pattern of growth, which is you start growing hair, it grows for several years out of that little follicle you see wherever you see a hair. It is genetically programmed to grow for some amount of time on different parts of your body, like your hair on your arm. The reason it doesn't grow like down around your knees is because it's genetically programmed to only grow so long, then stop, then fall out, and then start regrowing again. The hair on your head, much like a man's beard, is programmed to grow for a period of time. For some people, I mean, when you see women with their hair, trailing behind them, it's, all the way, past, hanging on the floor, their length of time of growth, where their hair is actually in the growing phase, is longer than it is for, say, a woman whose hair growth is not quite that length of time, those years of growing your hair. And after that length of time, for you, genetically determined, that your hair is done growing, it takes a nap. It goes to sleep. And it stops growing, and it just sits there in the hair follicle and doesn't do anything. And that period actually lasts. Again, it all depends on you. But as a rule, it lasts for several months, and then the hair falls out. And that is the life cycle of any hair on your body. But particularly, we see it very clearly on your head. But for some reason, due to hormones, male hormones, that changes. Now, for guys, that can kick in anywhere between the ages of actually 18 and upwards, but generally kicks in for all men, somewhere around the age of 60, 50 to 70. All men are going to go through some amount of thinning hair, regardless of race, ethnic background. It's going to be the same. For women, the exact same cause. It's absolutely generated by male hormones. It's actually it's called androgenetic alopecia, and women go through it for the same reason. The male hormone, it converts into a type of an enzyme in your, at the base of the follicle, converts the testosterone that's floating around, the androgens that are floating around women's body. We have both, male hormones and female hormones, obviously more female hormones than male hormones, but that's some of what causes hair growth are male hormones. And then there's this enzyme, this 5-alpha reductase enzyme, running around in the system that takes the testosterone and turns it into something called DHT, dihydroxytestosterone. And that's what starts the thinning of the hair process. For women, female pattern baldness, I got so used to calling it male pattern baldness, but it is now called female pattern baldness, can be identical to guys. It happens later in life, but it can be identical to guys in that you can get a receding hairline at the temples, and you can get balding at the center, or thinning at the center of the dome of the scalp. However, most women go through a diffuse pattern of losing hair, meaning they kind of get thin all over. Now, for me personally, I actually do have thinning at the temple, and I've actually been struggling with that almost since I started perimenopause, in my early 40s, middle 40s. So I absolutely have the more traditional male pattern baldness tendency, but it can be any one of the three. Diffuse thinning all over, or thinning at the, the temple area, the hair starts to recede, or you get a thin spot at the back the dome of the hair, the dome of the scalp. Now, that is the primary type of hair loss most people struggle with. It's for all intents and purposes, it's natural. It is just part of your genetics. It's, that is what happens. Nothing is wrong with you. It's just part of your genetics, your amount of hormones, this presence of this enzyme, and it acting to make thin hair. But since hair thinner and also fall out and literally shut the hair follicle down altogether. But there's other kinds of balding that you need to pay attention to. We're going to get to what you can and can't do about it, but I just wanted to go over the causes first. So the other type of hair loss to pay attention to is something called alopecia areata, which is a fancy name for balding in circular patches that are random over the scalp. That takes a doctor to pay attention to. There isn't anything over the counter that you can turn to have anything to do with helping that. Another type of hair loss is something called alopecia traumatic or traumatic alopecia. This is what another term is a stress balding, where something terrible happens, a breakup with, some guy or some woman, a death in the family, a car accident, something traumatic happens. And it takes a while, it's a little confusing, this type of hair loss, because it can take up to 2 months or 3 months to actually see the effect that the hair actually is coming out because of this stress trauma. It's not an immediate reaction like a lot of people think it is. What happens is that the hair goes from a growth stage to a resting stage very quickly, and then a fallout stage very quickly. That they don't actually know why that happens. They just know that that's been seen in the research. Another type of scarring, hair loss, which they're not actually quite sure why this happens, but they can test for it. A lot of this stuff, when you start seeing balding, thinning, that doesn't look like this this female pattern baldness or male pattern baldness, the technical term is androgenetic alopecia, which is, driven by the presence of, male hormones and this process that can happen in the hair follicle. Most of these other ones that happen to you, you really do need to see a dermatologist to get it diagnosed, because the diagnosis also often determines what can and can't be done. So the other kind that I was going to mention is this cicatricale, or I know I always pronounce these names wrong. Citricale, I think is the term. It's alopecia. What happens to the hair follicle is it becomes scarred. They don't know why, but it actually looks, when they see it under a microscope, that it looks like it has become scarred. That damages the hair follicle almost to the point of no return, and often to the point of no return, and the hair falls out. There actually isn't any way to take care of that one, but again, the diagnosis is important, because when you start seeing the problem, you actually can get in front of it, and there are some medical treatments that can help stop it. Something that absolutely has nothing to do with health and nothing to do with genetics in terms of female pattern baldness is something called traction alopecia. That's an interesting, there's another term for it. It's called ballerina baldness. This is where it is. Isn't that interesting? Ballerina baldness. When you see, right? They pull their hair incredibly tightly back. Almost. It actually looks painful. That constant traction, pulling, that tension on the hair follicle actually just pulls their hair out, kind of like plucking the hair out just from the constant tension. This also happens for women with heavy hair extensions, or women with overly tight braiding. This is particularly true for African American women, or any woman with African type hair, which is this very thin, tightly corkscrewed hair, because the nature of the hair itself is that it's thin. It's a fragile hair. It's fragile hair anyways. So that type of constant pulling on the hair actually, you can see women, when you see women with these heavy, braidings and hair extensions, literally that weight puts so much tension on the hair. You can actually see women whose hairline has actually moved almost to the middle part of their scalp line. I mean, of the top of their scalp. I mean, it's really, and it is easy to solve. You just stop doing it. The other causes, the medical causes, are everything from crash diets, which actually puts the body into a malnutrition kind of shock. That can cause hair loss. Malnutrition in general, it's very unusual in the United States for there to be malnutrition, but if really hopefully no one is, but given the tendency to have, for women to have anorexia, that absolutely can cause hair loss. And again, a healthy diet changes that back. You got to wait for the hair to grow back, but that, absolutely can cause hair loss. Some immune disorders. There's actually cases where young children, it's called andronarch syndrome, where kids produce too much androgens, and that can trigger hair loss in children. Again, something that you would absolutely want diagnosed by a physician. There are different kinds of, tumors, particularly adrenal tumors and ovarian tumors, that can cause hair loss. Post-hysterectomy obviously can cause hair loss because your hormones have shifted. You tend to have more androgens running around your body than estrogen. Illness, medications, certain medications, thyroid problems. That's a particularly significant cause of hair loss in terms of a medical condition, both over and under production. I mean, this goes on and on. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, which actually is in women is a hyperproduction of androgens. It's actually your body is making too much androgens. And isotretinoin used to be called Accutane, but Accutane is off the market. That can cause hair loss. It's long. The list is long. Primarily what most people are going to see is this thing called female pattern baldness, which is just a genetic thing. We're going to talk about some of the treatments for it. But in general, if you see hair loss, you do not run to the salon or spa if it doesn't look like the type of hair loss I just talked about, called female pattern hair loss or male pattern hair loss, which you're receding at the temples, you're getting a little bit thin at the dome of the head, or you have a little bit of overall thinness. You don't need to see a physician necessarily for that unless you choose to. But everything else I've mentioned, it probably is best to get to a doctor and have them take a look at it. Obviously, the tension type, where you're putting your hair too tight in a ponytail, or the heavy, the tight braiding or the heavy extensions, that actually is a waste of your time to go see a doctor. But if you're concerned or have questions, this is really the world of dermatology. If you're wondering about thyroid conditions, if you are diagnosed with that, then that absolutely is in the realm of an endocrine specialist. So what do you do about female pattern baldness, which most of us, 50 to 65% of us are going to see at some time? The absolute best option, the one treatment that has the most research, I mean, hands down, just the literature, the independent literature, separate from the company that makes it, is minoxidil. Minoxidil, Rogaine was the first product out on the market that contained minoxidil. Now you can buy generic minoxidil. It works. It works particularly well. Obviously, not for everybody. There's a percentage of people who don't get benefit from it. But if you're going to try something to see if you can get benefit from it, minoxidil is absolutely the first step. 2 to 5% concentrations. You'll see a warning on the 5% concentration that says not for use by women, but the research shows that women get an incredible amount of benefit from the 5% solution. The risk is that if you're not careful about how you're using it and you happen to have a hyper hair growth or too much hair growth on your face, it can stimulate hair growth on the face. But if you don't have that problem and you're careful about how you use it, the 5% concentration makes a huge difference in your results. Personally, when I first started getting the loss of hair at the temple, I started with 2%. I got some regrowth, but once I started using the 5%, it was very, I mean, there was no question about it. It was very different. If I was more consistent about it, I go through phases of being consistent and not so consistent. When I'm better about it, it works a lot better. But it doesn't cure it. It just, actually not 100% sure why it works, but it definitely helps stop the loss pattern, regenerate some amount of growth, and the research shows that it can work for women. About 50 to 60% of the women who use it the research shows will get some amount of benefit. There is the oral treatment that is what they call anti-androgenic, meaning it reduces the amount of androgens in the system. The one that's used mostly for hair loss is finasteride. You can buy it generically. It goes by a dozen different names. The most typical one you might have heard is Propecia. There's some research showing it can help women. It's a prescription medication. It is something you could talk about with your physician, but that research is kind of 50-50. Some research says it helps, some it doesn't. I think it's more a guy thing than a woman thing. If there is an issue of too much androgens, there are actually other drugs that are a better option, I think, for women. But again, I'm not prescribing. This is absolutely something you would talk about with your physician. Let's go over just a few. God, I'm talking a lot. Oh my gosh, look at the time. Okay, real quick. So what doesn't cause hair loss is hair mites. The Demodex mite that you might run into on the internet when you're searching for these kind of products. The issue is that little mite lives on the scalp, has been there probably almost since you were a kid. Also lives in beards, and you don't start losing your hair till you grow up and get older, and beard hair doesn't fall out. Plugged hair follicles don't cause hair loss. Plugged hair follicles just cause ingrown hairs. You can't choke off a hair follicle, and not to mention all your hair follicles don't all get plugged sometime around the age of 18 or sometime around the age of 50. That doesn't make any sense. It absolutely, and there's no research showing that plugged hair follicles do anything. Vitamin D deficiencies. There is actually some research in terms of, not a lot, but that vitamin D, a healthy diet is just a big deal. Vitamin D deficiencies are bad just in general for a lot of reasons, but there is some association with hair loss and that. So a healthy diet, vitamin D, you need vitamin D anyways for your system because you're going to be good about sun exposure, so you're never going to, especially if you're living up north where I live, you're never going to be making enough vitamin D. So vitamin D supplementation is an option to consider. Always talk about those kind of things with your physician. Poor blood flow doesn't cause hair loss because, as it turns out, the scalp actually is incredibly well supplied with blood. In fact, it's probably one of the better supplied areas of blood in the body. Baldness does not skip a generation. It doesn't come from your mom's side. Neither of those are true. Baldness is just genetic to you. There isn't a family trait one way or the other. Too many people go bald. It's not. It doesn't come from anything other than your own genetic propensity. Brian, you came up with something that I had never heard before. Is that one of the recommendations for balding is to wash your hair more frequently, under the notion that you could remove the hormone that has been created that's causing the hair loss. You can remove it topically. You said you had heard that one.
Yes, I've read that tip before. It's every now and then Men's Health magazine will do the latest information on hair loss for men, and that is a tip I've seen quite a few times, is that if you're experiencing hair loss, you should shampoo more frequently in an effort to remove the traces of DHT that may be lingering on your scalp.
Right. So the body no sooner, generates, you don't have estrogen on top of, coming out of your pores or any other hormone for that issue. DHT is just a hormone that has gotten broken down into another type of hormone. Testosterone converts via this, the male hormone testosterone converts via this enzyme in the body called 5-alpha reductase. into the hair thinning hormone called DHT, dihydroxy testosterone. So it's a closed system. You no sooner leach blood or lymph or any other enzymes or hormones out of your skin than you do DHT. So shampooing more often doesn't help. That doesn't. I mean, if your hair is dirty, you should wash it. But if anything, the less you play around with your hair, the longer you're going to keep it inside the follicle anyway. So hair manipulation actually doesn't help. Emu oil, a little bit of research, little bit of research showing that emu oil rubbed into the scalp may help. Unfortunately, it's greasy, so you would do it at night and wash it off. I think you're not going to find any results, but it's a big maybe. Green tea, maybe. That would be orally. A little bit of research. Pumpkin seed, no research. That one's made up. Saw palmetto, there is no research. Saw palmetto is a shrub. It's a plant extract under the name permoxin. You might run into that on the internet. It treats enlarged prostate disorder. That's not a result of cancer cells. It does seem to, it definitely has some research showing it's helpful for this disorder called benign prostatic hyperplasia. Some people think that means it's related to reducing testosterone, so it would be good for hair loss. But the research is really, it's not, the little bit of research is just not legit in terms of how the studies were done. And, I could go on and on. This is such a complicated there's so many things. The only other thing I wanted to mention besides a healthy diet, minoxidil, is the products out on the market, particularly Nioxin, which is a huge line selling all over the place. There's no research. The ingredients in it have no research. Even if you wanted to believe it, even if you wanted to believe that they have the answer, then just suck into buying their scalp treatment, because their shampoo and conditioner is just shampoo and conditioner. Any of those ingredients are just being washed down the drain. And their first ingredient is teolauryl sulfate in most of their shampoos, and that's actually a drying, irritating shampoo. It's not the best one just in general. If you want to see, then you can waste your money on their scalp treatment. Give it a shot if you're just dying of curiosity, but then don't bother with the other products, because when you're using a shampoo or a conditioner, especially for something like hair loss, and you got to deal with this issue of DHT, those ingredients are just being rinsed down the drain. So I think that covers it. I think we should take questions. What do you think? Am I leaving anything out, Brian? Desiree, I've just carried on. Oh, my gosh. Anything else we should does somebody have Desiree, anybody have a question about hair loss that we can start with?
Absolutely. We have Donna from New York on the line.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? What can I do for you?
I had a question about the minoxidil use. Just a brief history. I've had hair loss for probably since my mid-30s, and it was determined by a dermatologist that it was, they called it male pattern baldness at the time. And they had done a biopsy, et cetera. I do have a low thyroid, which I'm on Synthroid for. So they put me on spironolactone, which seemed to keep it under control. Of course, I did go through larger bouts of hair loss, like after every baby, et cetera, but it seems to be also at the temple, as it is in yours. So now what the latest thing that I've tried is I tried using minoxidil, and after reading, your books, I decided I'm going to go for the generic 5%, because you had said that you had less reaction with that. Unfortunately, I had just been using it at night because it is fairly greasy, and you're not supposed to apply it to wet hair. You can't blow dry your hair after you put it on.
No. No.
Where did you hear that?
Yeah, that's on the directions? Well, let it go.
Okay.
Let it go.
Okay.
Yeah. If that's on the directions, that's like a suck. You're never going to You're never going to get. You're never.
It's how you put it on in the morning.
So the reason they're telling you. So I get what the actually. I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say don't listen to me because I don't want to. I mean, I think it's foolish, but it doesn't make sense to me. But you should follow the directions. I probably legally should say that, but I think it's ridiculous because I think what they're worried about is when your hair is wet, it will run off, and then you might risk getting it on your face or in your eye.
Okay.
So I could see that one, but I do it on my hair wet every morning.
Okay.
It's right at the temple. I'm very careful with it. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the things they have now for diffuse balding, Brian, didn't you tell me you saw that, or I read somewhere that minoxidil 5% now comes in a mousse, or is that Rogaine that comes in a mousse?
It is only Rogaine. Rogaine had the patent on the use of minoxidil for years, and several years ago that patent expired, which is now why you're seeing minoxidil available in Walgreens and Costco, and everyone has their version of it. So Rogaine came up with a foam, and they are the only ones. They got a patent for it again. So if you want Rogaine in a more cosmetically elegant form, the foam, which comes in a 5% version, I think costs around $50 for 3 cans.
Oh, jeez. Oh, 3 cans, that's not bad. So that's a 3-month supply.
It's a 3-month supply. As someone who's used both the foam and the liquid, I actually preferred the foam, but then I got cheap and started buying the liquid because I can get the liquid at Costco for like $20 for a 6-month supply.
So I use the liquid too. For me, I don't have diffuse balding all over. So, and by the way, none of us here work for. Well, we're not recommending Rogaine anyways. I think the generic is better. I don't even know who makes the ingredient minoxidil. We don't work for them. We don't have stock in their company. We're really talking about the research and some of our own personal experience with it, just to be really clear. But so tell me again what some of those directions were. Not wet hair. I put it on wet. Brian, do you put it on when your hair is wet? I do.
Yep, every morning.
Every morning.
It also says not to use a blow dryer on it. But here's the issue. So I started using it just at night, and even using the 5% just at night, I found that I was getting great results, but I was getting such really intense itching and flaking.
I
was gabbing. So
I
started to cut it. First, I got to that erratic, as you would call it, where I'd use it for every other day. But my question is to you, does that mean I'm allergic to it? Is the dosage too high and I should try dropping it down to 2%, or should I would. Not as often?
Well, I would drop it to 2% and see how you do. Now, the other option that you might want to consider, because I do think the great results you were getting is because it's the 5%,
right?
Which really does have a lot of research showing it's better for women. But what you can do is once a week, get an over-the-counter cortisone cream, and once a week, because you don't want to use cortisone all the time, and you just want to use a little bit at the temple area where you're applying it, and you can see if that helps. Because what I get that, not as bad as what you're describing, but when I get it, I just put a little cortisone cream up there, like about once every other week, and it goes away. But the flaking, that's part of if I'm good about putting my beta-hydroxy acid liquid at my hairline, that seems to take care of the flaking. But that irritation, that allergic reaction or irritation reaction is something some people will experience. For me, I'd rather not give up the minoxidil. I like that I don't have a receding temple anymore.
And it was working so well.
I know.
Why I was trying to see if I could drop down to like every other day, which seemed to be kind of a happy medium. But I know that if it's got to maintain, the hair follicle, it's something that probably has to be used more than that.
I think you need to experiment with it. It doesn't hurt. I mean, this is something that's going to be a lifelong relationship with minoxidil, and you are getting results from it, so you can experiment. Maybe you do the 2% during the day and the 5% every other night, or maybe, or every 2 days, or, and then you can see what kind of results you get. You can try that little bit of cortisone cream once every other week or once, depending on the irritation. So you need to experiment with it. By the way, Brian, why do you think it says you can't blow your hair dry? What do you think that is? Because you're going to heat.
No, I think it said because they didn't want it to evaporate before, like it needs a good amount of time to sink into your scalp, and that they didn't want it to evaporate too quickly.
Well, I rub it into my scalp. Do you rub it into your scalp, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I find that when I blow dry my hair, the parts where I put the minoxidil actually take longer to dry because of the glycol base. It actually is kind of annoying.
Yeah, it seems very oily to me.
Yeah, that's the glycol that Brian was just, it's a slippery feeling is what you're feeling.
What is the best way to put it on? Because I find just with the dropper, and it is just a mess. And I do buy the generic. I buy the Costco brand. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
here's what you do. You take the dropper and you put just because you're a girl, so being a woman, you need a lot less than a guy, and you're not putting it all over. You're just putting it on in a small section. Just have the least little bit in the dropper. Do not fill it up all the way. You're not putting it all over. And what you do is section by or are you putting it all over, Donna?
No, just at the temples.
Okay. So at the line. Okay, so then just each section, you do it section by section, a little dab and rub it in, a little dab and rub it in, a little dab and rub it in. You'll be happy. Donna, we're going to send you a Paula's Choice shampoo and conditioner so you can play with some of my products from paulaschoice.com. And good luck, and I'm glad you're growing hair.
Thank you very much for your advice.
Take care, Donna. Desiree, next caller.
Next caller is Karen from North Carolina.
Hi, Karen. Karen? Karen?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not from North Carolina.
Where are you from?
Morgan Hill.
That counts. So we like people from Morgan Hill. It's okay. Karen, what can I do for you?
I just had a question. I know you're talking about the hair, you're on the head and everything, but what about your eyebrows? I'm postmenopausal. And
you're losing thin. Yeah, I know. And mine are going gray, which is depressing the hell out of me. I hate that.
I could have died.
Okay, so do I. But it's just, I hate that. I hate that one. It's just, we're going to be talking about hair dye in a few more shows. But yeah, I'm sorry, it just made me think of my brows. So you can absolutely consider, I know it's not indicated, but you can consider using minoxidil on your eyebrow. Some people, you would never use the dropper, never ever use the dropper. You would put some on a Q-tip and run it over the brow. Of course, you always run the risk. Well, it's not a risk, but it doesn't go, oh, I'm only going to grow this brow that falls really nice in my brow line.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you could take a Q-tip with the minoxidil. The other thing you could do, and I've talked about this on the show before, there's that new product called Latisse that you've been seeing Brooke Shields advertise that grows.
Yeah.
So now that's expensive, but I have heard, some dermatologists recommend that you can put that, again, with a Q-tip or with that applicator that comes with the Latisse over the brow area to encourage hair growth. Those are the only two things I know that can have an impact. Everything else you might have seen is bogus.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Maybe I'll give the Latisse a try and see what happens on that then.
Okay, that's a prescription-only product. All those other hair growth eyelash stuff is just crap. Karen, we're going to send you a shampoo and conditioner. This is Hair Day from paulaschoice.com.
Thank you.
All right, take care, Karen.
Okay.
Desiree, next caller.
Next caller is Debbie from California.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Paula. It's very nice speaking to you.
Thank you. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm going through premenopause. A lot of crazy things are happening with my skin right now. I always had oily skin, and now I'm starting to get dry skin around my T-zone. But the main problem I'm having is I'm getting ingrown hairs on my chin, which is very disgusting.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
And I hope you can recommend something to me.
Oh, jeez. I hate this one. This one's hard.
Oh, man.
I know. Are you getting extra hair anyplace else on your face, mustache area, anywhere else, just the chin?
A little bit on my mustache, but mostly the ingrown on my chin.
Yeah. So what's happening is because of this change in hormones where a woman's losing estrogen and androgens are starting to free flow throughout the body unopposed, is you start getting what they call secondary male characteristics, which some of that is about these, surprise hairs all of a sudden on your chin.
But on the upside, though, you and your husband might be getting along better.
I'm not quoting Brian at all on that. Brian, that's your own show. But we'll do that in a few weeks. But
okay.
on that note, I lost my train of thought, Brian. Now all I can think about is sex. So the
I
ingrown.
wasn't referring to that. You jumped.
Oh, what were you talking about? I thought that was a sex comment.
No, it was more along the lines of.
Both shaving at the same time?
No. The men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and that type of thing.
I thought you were talking about everybody having more testosterone running around. I'm sorry. Okay, back on topic.
That's great.
Sorry. I'll let go of that one for a second. So for the hairs on the chin that you're experiencing, the reason they're ingrown is because when the result of this increased, unopposed androgens, testosterone stuff running around your body, the hairs become thick. So they're not making it out of the skin very easily, so they get stuck. Tweezing is really when it's ingrown, the only way to get at it, to get it out, is by tweezing it because it's actually stuck under the skin. I'm going to send you some of our skin relief treatment. It's a type of aspirin-based product that can help reduce the inflammation and potentially exfoliate a little bit to help allow the hair growth to come out. But probably one of the things to consider is laser hair removal. I know it's pricey, but nowadays you can go to some of these places and they have great deals, and get them zapped is probably for the face the most reliable way to do it. Shaving won't work, particularly for ingrown hairs, not to mention you get, razor, you get, after 5 shadow. I mean, it comes back really quickly when you've just shaven it off. For ingrown hairs, Nair-like products, the cream products you put on that remove the hair don't work because the growth is underneath the skin. That's caught deeper in the skin. It's not on the surface. Okay. Tweezing is really the only way I know of. We're going to send you our skin relief treatment. I think if you started using that, that can help somewhat. But laser hair removal, save up some money and, find one of those places that has a bargain going. I think are your best options. You'll have to let us know how our skin relief treatment does for you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I wish I had better news.
Yeah. Well, we'll try this. Sorry. Hopefully, this will help me a little bit.
All right. Good luck, dear. No hot flashes now. All right. Take care. Desiree, next caller.
We have Stacy from Georgia on the line.
Hi, Stacy from Georgia. Hi.
Hi. I have 2 quick questions, and one I'm not sure if you can help me with on hair loss. I've had diffuse hair loss for about a year now. I am seeing a dermatologist, have been tested, all the blood tests, I guess, for thyroid disorders. Those are negative. Even got a scalp biopsy because she thought I had alopecia areata, and just came back with that I just have telogen effluvium. But because it's a year now and it's so diffuse, I just feel like there's something else missing. The one thing she's given me is that I do have low ferritin, or not low ferritin, but lower than they'd like to see with someone with hair loss. So it's not.
So are you taking iron supplement? So are you taking iron supplements now?
Yeah, a lot of them, and I've been taking them since November. So what is
November,
that?
and you're not seeing,
6 months.
And you haven't seen an improvement?
No.
Have you been tested for vitamin? Have you been tested for vitamin D levels?
No.
How old are you?
36.
36. Are you have any perimenopausal symptoms you're going through?
No.
You haven't noticed a change in your menstrual cycle, any mood swings that seem to be more intense around your menstrual cycle, nothing like that?
I mean, I definitely have had worse PMS after I had my first child 2.5 years ago.
Is that when the hair loss started?
I did have very bad hair loss after that happened, but it started to come back after about 4 months. And it was good for about a year, and then now, past year, it's bad again.
Yeah. So, oh, geez. And so now, have you been using minoxidil at all?
I have tried it and have not seen improvement.
So when you say you've tried it, how long and which type of minoxidil did you use?
The foam. I tried
you
foam
used the
tried it for. Yeah, I did actually try the foam because of the greasiness, that I had heard about, and that they said just try the foam for a while to see that. And I've tried it for like 4 months.
And you still saw nothing.
And I almost feel like it makes it worse. Like, is that normal for it to kind of feel worse?
No, it's not normal. I haven't seen it in the literature either, but that doesn't mean it's not true for you to get what they call a contraindicated reaction. So I don't know what to say. So what I would have you been to an endocrine specialist? Have you been to an endocrine? So there's two things, and I'm sorry, one other question I just thought of. When you, after your baby, did you start a new birth control pill?
No, I actually have not started back on anything.
Okay. Well, my strong recommendation is you got to see another dermatologist. You need a second opinion. You need to take the test results you had from that doctor, and you need to see another dermatologist in your area and get a second opinion. That is absolutely the best thing you need to do right now, because I do think it's of concern, especially given minoxidil didn't work for you, because over-the-counter, that's just about it. You're not pulling your hair back too tight. You're not wearing braids or extensions right. And I think you need a second opinion, and I think you might want to get another opinion from an endocrine specialist. I think you need a little bit more investigation from the medical end of it. It doesn't sound like it's just hormonally. I mean, it could be hormonally related, but I think you need some more tests given the range of problems it could be. Because you really, other than what you're telling me, from the research I have, I don't have a recommendation that would be outside of the range of what a dermatologist could do for you, and get a second opinion and an endocrine specialist to get your hormones, your thyroid re-looked at.
Okay.
Wish I had better news, but I can send you home.
A few things that it can give me a shred of hope.
Well, let's at least get you some skincare products so you go home with something. Tell me what kind of skin type you have.
Well, I've been using your skin recovery, and after listening to the acne blog, the acne shows, I think I need to try the balancing, because it seems like I have dry skin with acne, and that maybe I'm putting on too much because I have dry skin. I've been trying the recovery stuff.
Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to jump to skincare just for a second. So you do need the skin balancing. Desiree, will you let's get the skin balancing without the mask. She doesn't need the mask.
Okay.
Let's send a skin recovery cleanser instead of the. Nope, I think the skin balancing cleanser will be fine. And then, so use the steps that are in the skin balancing set. And if you have any dry patches, use the skin recovery moisturizer over those areas only at night. And also, will you also include a regular strength clear treatment product to get some benzoyl peroxide so you can also treat the acne lesions directly? You need some to see if benzoyl peroxide helps you clear up the bacteria in the pore that's causing the breakout. So we're sending you a little bit of a mishmash of products. You're getting mostly the skin balancing advanced system, except you don't need the mask because your skin is dry. So we're not going to include the mask. There is a really good exfoliant in there that I want you to use. And the clear, my acne group of products, just the treatment, just the benzoyl peroxide product, because the other products aren't the best for your skin type. Dry skin and breakouts is just really difficult to treat. You're a conundrum tonight, but let me know how the skin balancing products end up working for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. Take care. Desiree, next caller.
All right, we're going to switch gears here for a minute and go to Nellie from Pennsylvania with a question on sebaceous hyperplasia.
Hi, Nellie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good,
First
how are
of all,
you?
I'd like to thank you for all the wonderful information you provide. I especially liked your program on sensitive skin. That really helped me.
Oh,
right
thank
now,
you.
I'm really concerned about sebaceous hyperplasia.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any product I could use that might help it slow down or diminish it.
Not in the cosmetics industry, no. Do you have a lot of these? So sebaceous hyperplasia, just to let everybody know what we're talking about, are white, raised. They kind of look like blemishes, but they're not pimples. And they're not blackheads, even though they kind of look like blackheads. You get this white circle, this white rim, and then inside there seems to be, if you squeeze it, a little bit of liquid comes out, a little bit of white comes out, sometimes a blackhead comes out, but it's this raised white edge that is distinctive of sebaceous hyperplasia. Are you having a lot of these show up all of a sudden?
Yes, it just seems like they appear from nowhere.
I know, I hate them. I have them as well. They are part of sun damage. And sometimes it's just genetic. They just occur. It is the world of dermatology. Dermatologists know how to remove them. I would never trust it to an esthetician. They do have a process where they can take down the raised lesion, and then they actually remove very deep. They do this whole pressing thing and remove the core contents of the pore, like almost remove the pore for all intents and purposes. I mean, it's not really what they're doing, but very down deep the contents. And it can keep it away for, sometimes they don't come back. A lot of times they come back and you have to do it again. But it's about dermatology. There really is nothing over the counter. I would love to say, I have all my salicylic acid-based exfoliants, my beta-hydroxy acid products. I would love to say they help. They don't. This is a sun damage thing. It's not a pimple. It's not a blackhead. It's not about exfoliating. You could get laser resurfacing treatments. You can get IPLs. You can get Fraxil, and they don't go away. They're not treated by those dermatology procedures at all. So, I'm sending a lot of dermatologists are going to, increase their business tonight. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is in the realm.
Though. It's just on my one side of my face. I don't have on the other side at all. It's just kind of strange.
Well, actually, for the longest time, I didn't either, and now just recently it started popping up on another part of my face. That's just coincidental. That isn't about anything that has to do with generating. Now, actually, here's a question. Is it showing up on the driver's side of your face?
No, actually, it's the opposite side.
Oh, it is the other side. Were you driving a lot, and your husband, or who was driving more, you or are you?
My husband does all the driving.
Okay,
and
then what?
I protect myself with a hat all the time because with the birth control pills, I was getting that melasma, so I always wore a hat. And with rosacea, I'm always protecting myself from the sun, so. I'm a sun lover.
But because it's your driver's side, even being good about it, your driver's side is the passenger side because you're being more of a passenger.
No, it's actually would be the driver's side, but I'm always the.
So then it's not okay because I was going to say because often it happens. Actually, it's my passenger side too, and I'm rarely the passenger. But sometimes for some people, because it is about sun damage, it can be the driver's side of the face. That's just a sometimes. It isn't an absolute. It is mostly about sun damage, and it isn't because you're resting your hand. I used to think, it's because I'm resting my hand on that side, but it's none of that is in the literature or in the research about what's causing it. Even though I know this isn't going to help, I'm going to send you one of my. Do you have normal to dry skin, Nellie?
Actually,
what kind of?
I'm using tretinoin cream for my rosacea, so my skin typically, like summertime, it's kind of oily.
Okay,
and
so
wintertime, because the tretinoin cream and the dry air, I guess it gets a little bit dry. But my skin is weird. I really couldn't describe it as normal or oily or dry because it's like a little bit. It's like okay
well, because
now.
Because of the rosacea.
Yeah. I mean, I have oily skin. In fact, I want to know if I could even use a blackhead extractor to remove those little white areas. Was that bad? Would that be good?
You can. It doesn't bother the white areas. The white areas aren't going to change from the pressure of a comedone extractor. You absolutely can use a comedone extractor over it. It's a little difficult because of the raised area, but absolutely that can help. In fact, that's what a dermatologist would use once they did the resurfacing to level the skin, because they literally burn off that top layer and then they remove the contents of the pores. So, yeah, they actually use a comedone extractor. That is part of the process. But, Nellie, we're going to send you home with some products because I'm feeling very guilty here tonight. Memorial weekend, and I wish I had more answers. But here's what I'd like you to consider using is some of my skin balancing products. I'm going to send you my skin balancing cleanser, my skin balancing gel, the antioxidant concentrate that comes with it, and for around the eye area, my hydrating treatment cream. And actually, because we started off the evening talking about hair, I'm also going to send you from paulaschoice.com my shampoo and conditioner, so at least you'll leave with something that you can play with, take care of your hair, take care of your face, and then call your favorite dermatologist, see if they have a special going on, and see what they can do to help you with the sebaceous hyperplasia. Thank you for calling, Nellie.
I'm so grateful for all the wonderful work you do there. I really do appreciate your website and your radio program. You're fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Oh, God, great way to go into the weekend. Thank you, Nellie. Can we sneak one more call in, Desiree?
We've got just a couple of minutes left, but we can do it if you're up for it.
Let's give it real quick. Let's see what we can do.
Okay, we have Nicole from Florida on the line.
It's got to be a one-sentence question, Nicole.
Okay. Hi, Paula.
Hi. One sentence. Go.
Okay. I love you so much, but let me go on. Okay. I'm using Retin-A now and Azelix for acne, and I used to have really oily skin. I guess I do have oily skin, but now it's like dry, and I'm confused. I don't know what to use because I don't want to aggravate the acne, but at the same time, now my skin's like
I know it's too big a question. So here's what I want you to do, Desiree. Get this lovely lady's email, and I will respond to you personally off air after the holiday weekend. I promise I'll help, but it's way too long a question. That is a hell of a good question, but it would take way too much to answer. So this is Thursday, just before Memorial Weekend. So I'm going to wish everybody a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. If you're not in the United States, just have a gorgeous weekend anyway. This is Paula Begoun, the Cosmetics Cop, with her Cosmetics Cop team, Desiree Stordahl and Brian Barron. You can always visit us at cosmeticscop.com or paulaschoice.com, and, of course, beautypedia.com. Next week, we're going to talk about the 7 deadly sins of sun damage. I'm going to save your skin, I promise. You will love me after next week's show. Actually, your skin's going to love me. You might hate me because you might not like what I have to say, but then again, I just tell you the truth about being beautiful. The week after that, we're going to talk about cellulite, the skinny on cellulite, what works and what doesn't. The week after that, this is going to be we're back to the head again on the 17th. We're going to talk about the 7 hair care secrets you need to know but don't. And then again, back to hair. I got to think about the head these days. We're going to talk about hair dye do's and don'ts. You're going to love that show. You've been dyeing your hair. If you don't listen, I not only will save your money, I promise I will make your hair look better. Those gray roots, I'm going to teach you secrets. You're going to love me. And then the week after that, the July 1st. This is, Brian, you're going to be here for the July 1st. Actually, this is your show, Makeup Tricks to Look Younger, Healthier, and Vibrant. This is actually, I'm going to have to listen because you're going to have all of the answers. So This is Paula Begoun, her Cosmetics Cop team, keeping you beautifully informed every Thursday evening here in Seattle, many different places around the world. Desiree Stordal, Brian Barron. Come visit us, cosmeticscop.com. We miss you. You got to come more often. Have a beautiful weekend, everybody. Good night.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.